Hello and welcome everyone to our 30-minute weekly webinar. Sorry for that delay. This is Matt Sykes, a systems engineer here at Variphy, and I'll be your host for today's session. Today we are joined by my good buddy, Jim Schultens, another SE over here. How goes it today, Jim?
It goes wonderful. How about you, Matt?
It's fine as soon as you find that mute button.
Yeah, that always helps. We did a trial run. I thought you'd know about it.
Yeah, uncharted waters, I suppose. All right, well, everyone, today Jim will be demonstrating MS Teams call queue reporting buildouts that Variphy has new logic to handle and support. Please note that these webinars are recorded and posted within 24 hours to our website, so you can review them at any time. Check out the webinars page at variphy.com for all of our past and upcoming sessions. Also, you can find these videos on our YouTube channel if that may be easier for you. Okay. All right, so first we'll start off with a quick overview of what Variphy can do for you. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Jim will cover the Teams call queue reporting functions. We'll pause for Q&A. During the demo, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the chat panel and we'll get them answered throughout or towards the end live. After Q&A, we will reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around and see if you've won. All right, now a quick overview of the Variphy offerings. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco Call Manager, Contact Center Express, Cube iOS, WebEx calling, Zoom phone, and MS Teams collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading call reporting and analytics, as well as customizable dashboard and widgets. CUCM management modules like remote phone control, change management, and dial plan management are also available. If you have questions on any of our features, please contact us at support@variphy.com or simply just reach out to your account manager to get any of your concerns or questions addressed. All right, one more thing before we kick this off and go into the wild. For an additional fee, Variphy does offer an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Variphy SEs teams engage with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you a dedicated Variphy SE to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free, hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us or your account manager, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our enhanced consulting services or ECS. All right, we're now going to go ahead into the wild. So I'm going to hand things off over to Jim now. So please remember to type any questions into the chat, and we'll get those addressed throughout or at the end of the presentation.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on another webinar today. As Matt mentioned, I will be guiding us through some changes with the Teams call queue reporting and dashboards included in our latest release, which is 16.2. If you want to know all of the major changes we made in 16.2, Victor did an excellent summary on a webinar, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I encourage you to watch that. There should be a pop-up window on your screen with a link to watch that webinar, or you can, like Matt mentioned, visit our webinars page on variphy.com or our YouTube channel. All right. Before we get started in the reports, I wanted to highlight and kind of show you what we changed. It's good to have a visual here of before and after, basically. So this top screenshot is with version 16.1.1, and the bottom is with 16.2. Same call, same scenario. I just ran one in the lab before we upgraded, then after upgrade. So what you'll notice, first thing you'll notice is the yellow highlight. That's a new column we added, a new detailed column, new search criteria called call queue name, called queue name. Allows you to quickly run a report on a specific call queue. Previously, we had to use a call party username, and the call party username also contains your users. So it got kind of confusing trying to find the right queue if you're scrolling through that. So we've narrowed that down with a call to queue name as a search criteria, and like I said, as you can see in a detail column, so you can quickly run a report on one or more of your call queues. The other major change we did on 16.1.1, this is the way we're getting the data from Microsoft, which was the call would come into the queue, give you the new call queue name under the call party username. But then the people that were presented or answering the call were showing in the calling party username. that got confusing because really they're not calling, they're not placing the call, they're receiving or taking the call, or being presented the call. So they should be the called party. The other thing this gets confusing with is if you want to know, run a separate or different type of report saying how many calls did Jim place or how many calls did Victor place. This would show up in that stat of placed calls. When really, they were presented that call and or answered that call. So it was confusing with some of our other stats, getting overinflated, and just didn't make any sense. So what we did, we moved that. So we're still getting the data with it showing in the calling party, but our logic now puts the name and that person's phone number. You've got that programmed in your user database as the called party user or called party number. Because really they were called. They're not making a call. They're not calling. They were called. So, and we also persisted the new call queue name throughout the call. You'll notice some of these are blank. And if you have our team application, you'll see some call records that may have custom bot. Those are basically, for lack of a better term, garbage records. They really don't contain any other information, as you can see. But we want to display them. In future releases, we may just eliminate those or have an option to from a report. It does get kind of clutter up the report, but that's what we're getting from Microsoft, so we wanted to display it. So the other reason for persisting this through is for our grouping, and I'll get into that. It makes our grouping a little bit easier, or summarize who's taking the calls, who's being presented the calls, and we'll look at that in a second here. So I wanted to highlight these changes. Makes things a lot easier and makes more sense to us and hopefully to you as our customers. We will segue off of that and we'll get into our. I'm going to start in the report section. So we'll build a report, and I've got a couple saved reports that I can show you. Basically the same premises I'm going to do here, just for a longer time period. Takes a little while to generate those, so I've just got those saved results. So like I said, called queue name is a search criteria. So my default is call scenario types. Move that, and if I just start typing in queue, you'll see the called queue pops up. So that's my search criteria. I'm going to add, and I'm going to just focus on the new call queue. We've only got two queues set up in our test lab. Most of the reports here I'll be using queue because I had a lot of test calls in there. So we've got that. I just want to see the results. We don't have anything for today, so I'm going to go with previous month. Couple of records in there. So choose previous month, apply that, and we'll view results. So again, this is a history screen. If you're not familiar with Variphy, a lot of us SEs start here as far as building a report. If you work with us and you want a new report built, this is most likely where we're going to start. This gives us a kind of a sandbox playground, and allows us to see what's quickly run a report and see the data and make sure it's what you as a customer wants and we're getting the proper data. So a lot of us start here, and then from here we can segue into the report second. So get our results, 3 calls into the call queue, and you notice this plus button. There are multiple legs to these calls, so if I expand that, you'll see similar to that screen share I just showed. The call traversing through your Teams environment and being presented to people. This one was actually to me. I did not answer this one, and you'll notice 0 duration on the duration, and also on my call scenarios. This is a very, very good thing to have call details. Testing or looking for specific calls, this call scenario, we love using this. It gives you a summary of each call leg. So this one is a not connected call. this one eventually rolled to voicemail. We've got the same start time, so it kind of puts it a little bit out of order here in relation to the call, but it's hard to say which one first because it's got the same time. So this one did end it in voicemail. Similarly, I can click on this plus and expand them all out. The other calls are pretty similar to the one I just showed, so I'm not going to go through. But yes, this is what we want. We want to be able to summarize on who's getting the calls. So I'm going to go into our report. I could go into reports and start from scratch, but if I just click on this export results, one other thing before clicking here, if you do want to add or remove columns for these details, you just click on show hide columns, and you can just drag it from one side left to right, or if you want to remove them, just go plus and minus. Back to export results. This is going to put us in our reporting module. So if we were to start fresh with a new report, it would put us here. The only difference is coming from the history screen, we do give you the option to save this for future use. Give it a different name other than call history export. Otherwise, it's going to be like my lab and have 10 reports all named call history export. Webinar Q report.
You must have been looking at my lab too much. I've got a ton of those.
You got it. You taught me well. So yeah, we'll go and just give it a name. We can leave everything else the same. Search sets. This is carried over from our history screen or no call queue. I'll leave that alone. And then our grouping. If I go into grouping, I'm going to enable data grouping and my primary grouping type. I could do it by day, date, year. It'll give me, how many calls came into that queue here. But I want to summarize user. Called party name. Remember, we put that who's getting the calls in the called party name field. So I just need that for my primary grouping type. You can add a secondary grouping if you have multiple numbers for that person or it's a user type. I'm just going to leave it with primary grouping. This include grouping for unassociated. Just a caveat, we found after we released 16.2, this isn't working the way it's supposed to, so we did open up shortly. Basically, this, and you'll see in one of my reports, you'll see an entry for unassociated, which means there's a user that, or a phone number that we can't associate with a name. So tag those calls as unassociated. If you don't want to see those, normally we toggle that off and then we'll show. So it's not quite working right, so we'll get to the bottom. So how you want to display your end user as and the sort groupings. You can do it alphabetically. Most of the time we do call count height. Top performers at the top and on the list that way. Grouping search set, I'm going to show you this in a little bit. I'm just going to leave that wide open and then you can pick your stats. What you want to see. Get rid of this peer-to-peer call count, group call count. And I'm going to add that connected and not connected call count. Because like we saw, connected usually, it means that it was answered. Not connected means it wasn't answered. So the way I had my call queue set up is kind of a serial basis. It would hit me and roll to Victor. If Victor didn't answer, it rolled to someone else. Let's do that. You can see the not connected link. People did not answer that call. So search set summary, same thing here. This is for the overall call queue. I'm just going to leave it. Actually, I'm going to change total call count, total sequence count. This is better stat. What that does is counts the sequence as one. So remember, I clicked on that plus in the history screen. We gave you all these. This whole sequence was just one total sequence count. Or otherwise, it'll count in each time it hit that call. Right. And then call history details. If you want to see details, you can turn that on. And again, same add or remove columns as needed. I'm going to turn it off just for now, just for sake of time and running the report. This complete call sequence, I would leave that on. It's not going to affect anything. It basically looks at the whole sequence of the call. It's great. And report delivery, PDF is fine for this. Just a note, you've probably heard us say a couple of times, PDF, if you do have call history details, tends to wrap or cut off columns if you've got a lot of detail columns in there. So in that case, I would go HTML or Excel. For our purposes here, PDF is fine. Quick. And my results, just for those, as we saw, 3 calls. And this is here's showing 3 calls came into the new call queue, 3 were presented to Jim, and 3 associated. So again, with that toggle, we can get rid of this because it's really counting the same calls, just different calls. So it may make more sense to see just how many come into that new call queue and how many did Jim. Or if you just want to see the users, I'll show you how to do that. That guy. And now I'm going to go into the reports. Like I said, I have one built already. It's kind of similar to what we just built here. The new call queue report, same search set, same grouping. Everything's the same. When I run this, I'm not going to run it now because I'm doing it for the previous quarter just to get a little more data. Just to show you, this is the results. You can see I've got 21 total calls came into that queue, and here is each of the users. It's a little convoluted here with all these extra users. If you don't want to see, I had a couple of calls coming into the queue. If the users didn't answer, then it went to auto attendant, so you'll see it hit. If you're just looking for your users and you got a pretty static user base, we can do a grouping search set, which will narrow down to just what you put in. So if I open up my new call queue report and go to grouping, it allows me to do this grouping search set. Here I can lazy name, and since I'm grouping on called party user, that's all the option it gives me. And then I can add my users here. It was Derek in there, Vic was in there, and Jim was in there. So I can save this report, rerun it. Again, I did that for sake of time. I've got the results here. So a little bit cleaner report. You'll see users and their counts. You'll notice you may have a question saying there's 21 calls, but here it's showing 29. We did do a webinar kind of on this. It was more CUCM based not too long ago. That, but you can find that on our webinars page as well. But the reason for that is, the calls could be presented multiple times. Just one call may be presented to me and then roll to Vic and then roll to Derek. So we would each get a count here. So these are going to be a little bit higher if that's the case. Calls coming in. Just wanted to point that out. Don't panic if people always want to say, hey, I've got this total, it should match this total. Well, not really, because could have multiple entries or multiple calls for each user. And then scrolling down, it does, you can, this is with the call details turned on, get history. We can just kind of click on it, bring me down to my calls here. All your related calls, this brings you to the cradle to grave search set. Scroll down. Guys, there's our cradle to grave. First call. So the orange is what matched our search set. We've got the new call queue. That's what we're searching for. I'm sorry, the call queue name here, and then the call party user is here. Notice this call was presented to me. I didn't answer. Presented again. Didn't answer. Didn't answer. That's why you see, this gets counted, 4 times against my stats, but it's only one total call. That's where you get that difference in call. A couple other ones here. There's another one like that. here making those test calls. This one here in particular went to Derek. He did not answer that. And we're also showing that. So connected and not connected. Connected basically means it was answered. So I've got 10 answered calls. I basically ignored 13 calls. And my numbers don't match this total because, as you could see, that one example I showed you multiple times. Victor's is a little more in line with his 7 calls presented, 2 answered, 2 not. So that does show that way. Let you see kind of who's answering the calls and who's not, if your call queue is set up for this serial. All right. So that's one example of the call queue and who's answering. The other example I've got here is to see how my queues are. So my search set, again, called queue name, and I've got the 2 queues here. This show historical option, if I turn that on, it see this option here with the flag. That means this call queue, same, it was deleted at one point. So this call queue was deleted, and then I created a new one. New call queue again. And but this one has call records to it, so we can include that in our report if you want to see, just keep track of the calls for deleted queues. Report on that as well. And then the grouping for this one is going to be called queue name. So I've got 2 call queues. I want to see how each one is doing. And call queue name, same thing. I'm just going to sort it by, there's not a secondary grouping type. I'm going to sort by total call count, highest to lowest. And the results for that are shown here. So 27 calls between the 2 call queues came into those, both of those queues, and then how they were distributed. So 21 came to the new call queue and 9 came to the test queue. So great way to, overall get a picture of how your queues are doing, how many calls. You can break this down by day, by week, by hour, show different graphs for that. Day, week, month, hour, queues are getting. I believe I show that. Let's go move into the dashboards. I did create a dashboard for that. So in the dashboards, kind of similar to the reports, this one here, I'm just have my users in there, same call count. I've got the quarter, previous quarter. If I edit this guy, you'll notice my search set is my new call queue, just like in the report. And then if I go to configuration, it is a grouping statistics widget. So how am I going to group it? I want to group it by called party name, last name, first name, and call count highest to lowest. This always gets me if you've got more than 5, you want to bump that up to see all the users. Free, so we're good on that. And again, grouping search set. This one I make it look a little prettier. I just narrowed it down to my 3 users for it. And you can see their stats. This one I did add answered call count. You'll notice answered call count. The counts are the same as connected. So could not have this, have answered and not connected. In fact, if you wanted to have this say not answered call count, we do have label sets you can do or use to change the names of these labels. I think, Matt, you may have done a webinar on that quite a while ago.
Yep, definitely. I'm a large advocate
Yes,
of custom label sets. Yes, sir.
Yep. So look for Matt's webinar on our page and make more sense to you or your users. Same type of widget here, broken down a little bit differently with the graph or the pie. That's a call distribution widget. All my other entries are pretty much the same as far as search sets. Username and breaks down, per user, how many calls they're getting. So it depends how you want to see that information. Show there. And Q stats, this is similar to the last report we went through for both my queues. How many calls is each queue getting? Total of 27. New call queue got 21 of those. And so this is similar to the top report. And then same with here, I broke it down into a pie chart for both queues together. Receiving. And then the breakdown by this one is by week, or that's, I believe, by week. So you can break it down by day of week or week. And this one I did previous quarter calls that came in my queue. That is about it. Looks like I did cover most of the time, Matt. Any questions that came in?
Just one. Fantastic job as always, Jim. One came through that I just kind of wanted to shed some light on here real briefly. Does Variphy support cradle to grave reporting within the MS Teams offering, which you kind of demonstrated there for us? So we certainly do. It is going to be of the sequence variety that Jim kind of walked us through. They mentioned that they'd be needing some reports, number of incoming calls, and then the number of transfer calls, and maybe some transfer destination. Certainly, I feel that we should be able to pick and pull stuff like that out of those cradle to grave sequences that Jim was just kind of showing there a minute ago, because we, as always, we have more than enough filters and suppressions to go around. Okay. So for the most part, I think that kind of answered itself, as well as what you were doing there. So at this moment, everyone, this is kind of the Q&A portion of today's session. So if you feel that you want to softball some questions on over to us, now would be the time to go ahead and do so, and we can answer them live while Jim is sharing out his screen. If not, I'll probably give it about 15-20 seconds and then move on.
Scared. I thought you were going to say 15 or 20 minutes, man.
No, I don't have that kind of time. But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely double up on those custom label sets. I mean, I definitely advocate for those wherever I go, whichever platform that I'm supporting, because certainly the out-of-the-box platform nomenclature for originating this, terminating that, or some of the, maybe I'll reference Cube. The Cube data set sends us H323 column headers and stuff like that. Can seem a little ominous to certain people out in the field, so certainly we can relabel those so it's more structured and abbreviated for interpretation, let's say. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Our next session will be next week, August 14th, when Trey and myself will demonstrate the ability to use and access CUCM data and inventory for decommissioned call manager clusters. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks all.